Actually, I'm gonna go run to the restroom if you're gonna be setting up for a minute.
Yep. Yeah, we got time. Hello, Jake. Correct. Hello, Lepton. Hey, Matt. Okay. Sure. I'll put these pictures down. What day is it? October 6th. Man.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Something like that.
Yeah.
We also get to do some nerf predictions, probably. Cause.
Oh yeah, that'll take an hour.
Hmm.
uh,
Weapon reversion.
weapon reversion.
Harpoon gun.
Harpoon gun.
That
Yeah.
seems to be the easiest change to bet on. Like, they may make others, but I'd be very surprised if they didn't do that.
I thought there was a new card I missed that has your weapon hit you in the face, and that would have been more fun. Yeah, I still don't hate the idea of the mountain bear cubs going to 2/3s.
There are a lot of different ways. We'll talk through them all on the show.
Yeah, I'm sure there's good. I mean, you could probably go through like every card in Big Beast Hunter, except maybe for like Batty Guest.
Batty Guest probably okay. No, it's fine.
and find something wrong with it that you want to nerf. But yeah.
Let's see here. I did this. Okay. I think. Nope, I gotta open soundboard. Harpoon gun is the free space in the bingo square. Well put, Matt.
Oh. See, okay, now that's a promotional idea. Come up with Nerf bingo cards.
Let's see. Testing my audio real quick here. Sure.
I would like to buff my lungs, please.
Well, you sound better than the last time we talked to you, which is good.
Yeah. Something about my breathing isn't right, though, and I don't like it.
Oh, that's not good. Separate from not COVID, just different from that.
Asthma.
Yeah, asthma sucks.
Okay.
Oh, they fixed the due process bug. Good.
Yeah, they fixed a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
They fixed basically every bug that was script fixable. There are a lot that aren't, but they fixed basically every one they could that is.
Yeah. And they did it without bringing the notification bug back, so that's good.
Yes, that was a client bug, but yes, that would have been unpleasant. All right.
It's like the monkey's paw of hot fixes, you know.
That was client side, luckily, so I don't think there was any
Yeah.
risk of it breaking. But yes, I'm glad we don't have to deal with that.
And we don't have to wait in the queue for 3 hours in order to play, so that's good.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
too real. Okay, hot fixes out. Yeah, they fixed a few things. Okay.
No.
All right. I mean, we can go whenever y'all are ready.
Yeah, I can press the button whenever we're ready to press the button.
Open Audacity.
All right, I'm recording.
Recording.
Okie doke.
Recording. All right. I feel like I should be louder.
Have the number of Kirby's behind you multiplied? I feel like there are more Kirby's behind you.
Same number
Is
of
it-
Kirby's, they're just more compressed. They're not always
Oh,
in
okay.
frame. Yeah. I understand your Kirby related concerns because I do think that there are a large number of Kirby's by most metrics, but it is not increased that I'm aware of.
Okay, I was concerned that they were breeding or something, and you know.
There is no usage of the copy ability in this house.
Mm.
All right. I think something about this feels weird. Hold on. I don't know why there's a border, but all right. Yeah, I'm ready. Recording.
Okay, I'm recording.
3, 2, 1. Starting the show in 3. Nope, I don't know what. 3, 2, 1. Starting the show in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you! Never lose hope.
Here for a chat.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend!
Hello and welcome to episode 364 of Coin Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, October 6th. Happy October. It's in the evening. From Gadsden, New York, it's me, Ridiculous Hat. From Nomergon, Ohio, we have Edelweiss.
Oh.
Hello, welcome back. And from Northern Massachusetts, we have Wicked.
Hi.
Hi. And from where you are a listener, we have you. Thank you so much for being here, tuning in, live or recorded. And also, thank you so much to our patrons and our newest patron, Edwin. Thank you so much. Big fan of your Van Cleef. Thank you for supporting the show. And all you patrons out there, you're really great. You're wonderful. Thank you so much. And all of you that have left reviews as well, we really appreciate it. It helps other people find the show. Life and Ladder. Edel, how are you feeling?
I am better, so my voice sounds like my voice now and not like an octave lower, but still having some breathing issues. Very glad I got an inhaler at my last physical, but definitely on the road to recovery. So
Glad to hear that. Sorry to hear that. You know, I wish you weren't sick at all, but I'm glad that you're slowly becoming not sick. What does your gaming time look like for the last couple weeks?
Ghosts of Tsushima.
Oh, it's really good, right? You were the last one of us to play it.
It's so
I still have to pick it back up. I think I stopped like when Horizon came out. I need to pick it back up.
Yeah, I got Ghost of Tsushima on sale, and Horizon Forbidden West was on the PS5 that I inherited. So
Oh, this is news.
yeah, so I'll get to that, but having already been sick, worrying about motion sickness was like not something I needed to add to that. Whereas Ghost of Tsushima, no problem. I started out in Kurosawa mode with the black and white, and the vibe is super awesome, and then I realized that I could not tell the difference between unblockable attacks and parryable attacks, and I was like, I'm making this unnecessarily extra difficult on myself. So, went back to playing in color, and just instead turned the difficulty up to lethal. So it's the proper amount of challenge, but I can actually like parry.
So, those Sekiro habits, you haven't turned those off yet, huh?
What do you mean?
You don't have to parry in this game. You can just not play
Well,
on
you
lethal
have to
and then
parry
kick
it
some
like
guys.
that one boss battle. You have to parry.
Yeah, there are a couple where like parrying is good, but also like if you don't turn it up to the highest difficulty and then you miss a parry, you survive.
Sure. I mean, so I don't know if it's because I changed the difficulty after beginning that it's weird, or if I just like I'm far enough along that the armor I have and extra health, like I don't get one shot anytime I get hit. Like I seem to be able to most of the time be able to take a couple of hits, but I have like maxed out all of the samurai stuff rather than the ghost things. Since I figure Sekiro kind of gave me all my ninja fun, now I'm doing things a bit more samurai like. But in the face of overwhelming numbers, sometimes you still got to resort to some kunai and sticky bombs and such. So
Yes. I really enjoyed the donkey video on that game where it's in desperate situations you have to resort to ancient relics like the plasma grenade from Halo, which is exactly what the sticky bomb is. And it's very fun.
I'm just realizing how different we are because all of my points went into stealth. Because as soon as I tried to go like up to any enemy, I just died immediately. So everything went into stealth so that at least I could have like a fighting chance against like a smaller number rather than like just a wave of angry Japanese men who just tore me to pieces immediately.
So I think, well, the Mongols aren't Japanese, but
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, that's right. They're Mongols. It's been a while since I played it. Yeah, that's what I
but
meant.
I think if I had played this before Sekiro, I would have gone all in on sort of the ghost weapons, right, and been full ninja. But I don't know. I was kind of digging the samurai vibe, and I find parrying like really satisfying. And something about Souls games has just affected me that I don't feel like it's hard enough if I don't like die a couple times in a side quest. So the first thing I did was I maxed the standoff mechanic, which is like you can just there's a couple ways to approach enemy encampments. You can sneak up on them and like assassinate folks, or you can walk up and just call them out and like challenge the first three of them to fight you. And it's just kind of this timing thing of you want to attack when they make their attack, and it just feels very. If you've ever watched Yojimbo or Seven Samurai or any of those, it's all vibes. Yeah, totally loving the game. And
It's very good.
How about on my lunch breaks?
How about Hearthstone?
Oh, is that what we're supposed to be talking about?
Yeah, so
I'm curious.
Not a lot of samurai action in Hearthstone, but I've
Yet.
been playing Paladin, which is probably the closest thing. I switched off Jailer, so it's just like pure Paladin with Countess, which is it's just nice. I really like picking the different legendaries and like doing them in a single turn so you can get the frog or Sivara or something, get more invitations. That's always sweet when I can pull that off.
Wishing for more wishes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Paladin as a
But-
class is substantially better. Like we kind of had an idea last week, but Order in the Court is kind of such a huge deal. I thought Class Action Lawyer was going to be a bigger deal, but Order in the Court just consistently lets you light ray into Cariel and to Countess in a way that's so important.
Yeah. And then still playing Shaman every now and again. I think I actually finished top 500 for the first time, which is not a thing that I do. I don't know how that works when I had less time, not more. But
Because you didn't play any experimental stuff to dumpster with. It's.
I
I was
guess,
talking
I
with
don't know.
Electric Sheep City about this. They had less time, so went on a bad deck diet, only played ladder to practice for THL, and then finished high. I mean, that did well, because when you cut the experimental decks from your diet, you're gonna do better.
I mean, Paladin's still not like tier 1, but
It's pretty good though.
yeah.
It's
And
a
I know the
respectable
matchups
class at
really
this
well.
point. And,
Yeah,
and
it
it like if you're
is.
playing a deck that like the back of your hand, then it like you can improve those win rates by at least 5%, if not like matchup win rates by like 5%, if not like 10%.
Since the new season, since October started, though, I've been playing some No Hands Secret Mage, and that is a ton of fun, even if it's not the best mage to play right now.
It's gonna be worse when people start playing around objection, but they haven't started doing that yet. And let me tell you, when I think the first game I played with it, I discovered objection off of Suspicious Alchemist. They picked correctly. Then I played it, and then on their 9-mana turn, they slammed Ikman. It's,
Hmm.
I want to emphasize, Suspicious Alchemist listener, this is the 1/3 that, like, you get to guess what I picked, and if you guess correctly, then you get a copy. They had an objection in their hand. Then I played the card that was created by Suspicious Alchemist, which matched the card they had in their hand. And then they played a 9-mana minion on turn 9 and immediately conceded. So, like, there's playing around a secret that you play. But then there's playing around a secret that you have in your hand. That's, I don't know. It was funny, but yes, it's enjoyable right now. Like Mage has all sorts of stuff to do. Steve, what have you been doing?
Well, I mean, I started off the month pretty much where you would expect that I started off the month, playing
Thief
more
Priest.
Thief Priest. Tic Tac got to rank 2 legend, I think, or rank 1 maybe. Maybe he ended up rank 1. So I was trying out his list, and I played it on stream Friday night. I didn't do very well, but I did end up in a very funny game against a Quest Priest. It was a long game. It was a half-hour game because, but they at one point they played a kidnap because they got it from a sketchy stranger, and they had a spirit guide on board. And I played a Magic Hexen, and turns out when your Magic Hexen gets kidnapped, not only do you get another Magic Hexen, but also the death rattle never triggers, so you just keep the minion forever. So that was a fun interaction, and that game ended up going with them like finishing their quest like on almost on curve, and Finleyed it immediately, and then just never drew it, and got to the point where I was able to identity theft the crest reward out of their deck and play it before they got to. And yeah, that was a game. It was it took a minute, but 28 minutes. But yeah, but the problem is that that's not a deck I could really climb with. Like, I was seeing too much. Like, you need to have a very compressed meta for a deck like that to work, so you really know what you're playing against, and I just didn't. And the meta was changing underneath my feet, and there was a lot more mage all of a sudden, which is a terrible matchup for that deck because you just die from hand. And Demon Hunter was also very popular, and that was not particularly great either. So I tried a bunch of things. I also kind of did the bad deck diet for the last couple days to get ready for THL, and then today I just started playing No Hands Big Beast Hunter and went 10-4 up to legend. So that deck is good. It was, there's not really a whole lot to say about it, though. He put in the tarantulas ostensibly for Naga Priest, though I didn't see a single one in that. It was all warlocks and hunters and like one mage, and that was all that I saw in like the last, like, right through Diamond 3, Diamond 2. But so I came in, it was like right before the show, so I came in like, I don't know, 950 or something like that, which is, given how disastrously I tanked my rank last month, because I ended up like 5,000, 6,000. I don't remember where I ended up. It was just like it was a kind of a disaster. But it's fine, right? Like it doesn't it all it does is it means that I spend a couple more days at Diamond at this point. So it's not like the end of the world. Like I would like to finish 11x, but whatever. If I also want to continue to have fun in the game, and I was having fun playing Priest. So,
This is foreshadowing for Dexplanations. That's
Do
what
you
we're
think
doing.
Kidnap is the worst card in the game.
I don't know if it's the worst, but I do know it is in the conversation. Like, I
Yeah.
think it's worse than Duskfall, or no, it's better than Duskfall and Aviana. But, like, the fact that they're in the same bucket tells you a lot about Kidnap. It's
Probably
a
the worst in
clear
standard.
it's a clear benefit for your opponent, and unlike Duskfall and Aviana, like, you could actually cast it and recruit it pretty reliably. But I do think, like, there are scenarios where I can see Kidnap being good. If you kidnap a Samuro, obviously fantastic, right?
Or Bran.
But-
Bran would be fine
Right.
too, right?
Something like that. But, there are a lot of scenarios where Kidnap is terrible. There are no scenarios I can think of where Duskfall and Aviana is just a card that is good by itself sometimes. There's never a time where you just run it out and it's like, well, it'll be good. It'll be good for me.
Yeah.
But
It kind of feels like it's meant for a meta that doesn't actually have that many battle cries, but they've made a lot of powerful battle cries.
I don't know if it's meant for a meta.
Yeah. I mean, even when it's good, like quote unquote good, it's not that great. Like it's at most you're kicking the can down the road. Unless you were gonna like spend a shadow step on the bag, which I mean, if you're doing that, you've still spent a shadow step on a 0/4 that it's gonna be stuck in your hand or you're gonna replay, right? Or you have like some sort of a silence or something. Like it's
I was thinking about that card, and in reality, they didn't print an Okani secret. This is a sap secret. This is a preloaded sap. That's how I think of it now. That's how I want to think about it. But it turns out sap is good when it's in your control, when it generates you a bunch of tempo, not when it's in your opponent's control. And there have been so many times where playing sap, I have to think about sapping a large minion with a good battle cry because I don't want to deal with the battle cry again, but I want to put the minion back. Giving my opponent control over that is what makes it so terrible, because sap, obviously a powerful card, 2 mana for an unconditional removal spell, obviously pretty powerful. Doing it on their turn and giving them control over not only what gets hit, but when they get to do it again, is obviously like a very different thing than what the card could do in the best case scenario. So a sap secret doesn't really work.
and it's also like it's easy to figure out what it is. It's a little bit harder now that Perjury is around. But the constellation of things that Rogue Secrets interact with is not big. So like if you've like played a spell that uses up your mana, like, and you've gone a turn, then you know what it is. And once you know what it is, it's way easier to punish your opponent. I mean, it's like I joke that double cross when you get it from Sketchy Stranger is basically like when your opponent spends all their mana, burn 2 cards, because that's kind of what it ends up being a lot of the time, at least when I play it. But I mean, Kidnap is just way worse.
Steve, that is because you play a deck that is likely to have its hand full.
Listen, I'm not saying I'm not complicit in this. Like I'm not absolving myself of responsibility. I'm just saying that's what it is when that happens. And like, I mean, in a secret rogue, I'm sure it's okay, but like you're not usually playing secret rogue. You're usually getting those rogue secrets from Sketchy Stranger, because whatever you are offering is like worse.
Yeah. Glowing endorsement. Rogue secrets aren't that great. But yes, Kidnap is the worst one. Anyways, like you two, I've been going on a bad deck diet as well, so I hit Legend Within Rage Warrior because I only play the best decks. Listeners, please observe, this is a bit. And Rage Warrior is not that great, but it's fun. And at the ranks I was playing at, there were a bunch of people testing Druid for the Masters Tour, and they got their anima extracted very quickly. So, when you end up playing a bunch of giant stuff very quickly and then Imbued Axe stomps them, it's been fun. I played against Oon twice in the last 2 days, and his chat kept saying, like, is that deck broken or is this the nut draw? And the answer is mostly the nut draw thing, but I will say the list on Vicious Syndicate today, which is pretty low curve, plays double weapons expert, went down to 1 Acolyte because you just don't need the second one all that much and it's kind of slow. And it plays Rokara Hero card. You need to play Rokara Hero card. It is very, very, very important. It wins otherwise unwinnable situations. There were a ton of times where he just bonked my opponent for a ton of damage because they couldn't stop it. It is the only card that does what it does, so you need to have it. So I found the deck to be enjoyable and pretty solid. There will be games where you lose and that you will lose badly enough to be like, why do I have this built? It is that kind of snowball-y aggro deck. So, if the Hunter deck has Wild Spirits going first, if the Zoo deck has Mischievous Imp on 4 and Tuber Farm on 6, like, you will lose badly enough to make you question if the deck exists. It kind of exists, but it's mostly good enough, and I was able to get to Legend with it pretty quickly, and the games are very fast when you win, and very fast when you lose, so I enjoyed that. Otherwise, I don't know. I've been trying out all sorts of stuff. I like 30 Spooky. With the Frozen Touches, it got a lot worse after the mini set, but it's still fine. What else? I've been trying various flavors of Demon Hunter. I really don't have a lot of faith in Relic DH. I don't think it's that great. But it's, it's fine.
It feels like a high roll deck. Like, I mean, I know it's not entirely a high roll deck, but it definitely feels like way more draw dependent than it ought to be a lot of the time when I play it.
Yeah, I feel that. I don't know why a lot more people aren't playing Warlock all the time. It feels like there should be a lot of people playing Zoo, like curse or non-curse, like whatever. It's really good at stuff. It's a good deck.
Yeah, I was playing some of that yesterday too on my diet, and it's fine. It's good. I mean, I played both that and the 30 card mage. Those both seemed fine. I mean, it's like, I guess my problem with this meta isn't that I dislike anything, but it's that I'm not super excited about anything either, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's month 3 and the mini set was pretty weak, all things considered.
Yeah.
Like, there are cards that I enjoy playing that are in the mini set, but in terms of meta impact, there wasn't a ton. There was just Paladin became real. Aggro DH got better.
Relic DH did get Prosecutor, I can't remember the name because it's got a
Meltranix, yeah.
Yeah.
Meltraxis. That card's not that good.
It's very good if you play it on curve, and if you play it later, it's very medium.
Against Thief Priest.
No, in general, because like I was playing the DH and I would play it later, and then my opponent would just play things consecutively from one of the sides of their hand and still be able to play out their whole hand, even though I played it, and even though they had like 6 or 7 cards, they just start from one end of the hand and just keep playing stuff.
I mean, it, like other aspects of that deck, it is very feast or famine. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
sometimes it just hoses them, right? And they can't do anything. And sometimes it does nothing, as you say. And that's going to depend partially on when you play it, partially on the deck you're up against. If you're up against something that wants to play a board clear, but it happens to not be, in the right position, then they could get totally screwed. And sometimes, your opponent's just like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I play this and then this and then this and then this. And yeah, it's that deck, like, it has games where you just don't pay mana for things and it feels nuts. And certainly stuff that gives it more time to do that doesn't perform as well against it. But there are also games where you just run out of stuff because you didn't find Relic of Dimensions.
Or you didn't draw a Relic Vault, and then you play a Relic of Dimensions, you drew 2 cards, they weren't the 2 cards you needed, and then you just sit there top decking. Yeah. I will say that Defense Attorney Nathanos in the no hands build that runs the Tarantulas has felt a lot better to me. Because when you can get the Tarantula Battle Cry or Tarantula Death Rattle rather, off of the Nathanos, you get the 2 rushing poison spiders, and then you have them loaded in him also. That's felt way better than it did before, when you'd be playing it late enough that it's like, well, okay, you get a Hydra head, or like the front half of Asher and Saber, or or Sunken Saber after you've pulled all the beasts out of your deck or whatever. But having the Tarantula in Nathanos has felt, it made that card feel more real than it had the other builds that I played.
Yeah, it's a scuffed staff of scales.
Yeah.
And that, like, No Hands build is to farm Blessed Priest. And a bunch of poisonous 1/1s with Rush will do that, because that's why he built that version, is to beat Blessed Priest. And it's very good at it. So, I am glad that there is something. But also, I expect that Hunter will be nerfed in the near future. We're going to talk about that in the news section, which we're going to do now.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
Hey, this is the news section. There's not a ton this week, so we will speculate at the end, because we are due for a constructed balance patch probably next weekish after the Masters Tour, but we did get a server-side hotfix patch today. Let's start with the bug fixes. First of all, due process. You know that thing where if you got due process and then played a hero card, you would draw an extra card? Like, basically, for every time you got due process, it would get doubled. They fixed that. They fixed a bug where Nathanos would remember the state of the beast you discovered. So if you silenced a beast and then kill it, it would bring back a silenced beast. It doesn't do that anymore. Contract Conjurer. We danced around it last week because we didn't want to give you instructions on how to exploit. But Contract Conjurer, that's the new secret discounter, 6 mana, 6/6, costs 3 less for each secret you have. It was discounting for anything in the tree zone around your portrait. So if you played a quest on 1, and then you played Informant Secret on 2, you could play a 6/6. Not intended. Quests are not secret, they are very public. So they have addressed that. There was an issue on Murder Accusation, the rogue card where you would mark something, and whenever one of their minions died, this minion would also die. It was triggering on weapons. They fixed that. And perhaps most importantly overall, for all the modes where you are match made based on your record, there was a major bug where you could be match made into the same person multiple times in a row. Felt pretty bad. So they fixed that. That's resolved. In addition, there are some Battlegrounds balance changes. They moved heroes up and down. By the way, they separated and listed which heroes got buffed and which heroes got nerfed. I know this seems silly and theoretically we should know this, but it's not listed on the website anywhere. Just having a section of these heroes get more armor and these heroes get less, I can now confidently tell you which heroes got nerfed, which I have made the mistake multiple times of just saying, oh, this hero probably got changed this way because of this reason, and then the reason was wrong because they actually got buffed. So, Pyramid and Akazamzarak get more armor, Sylvanas gets more armor, Brukan gets less, Shenvala and Tavish get less. Nice. Also, Anima Bribe, Evil Twin, Teal Tiger Sapphire are now slightly easier to earn. Teal Tiger Sapphire on the quest to get buffed every single time they do a hotfix. Someday it'll be good enough. And they nerfed Smoking Gun, slightly harder to earn. Finally, big arena updates. There are a bunch of trash cards that they removed because they are way too narrow, like Chef Nomi, Spirit Singer, Umbra, etc., etc., etc. I don't think too many people were building Ozark decks. So, like we talked about last week, the older arena cards really stand out. They removed the bad ones of those. And they reduced the frequency of some of the newer cards. Sire Denathrius, Ysera the Dreamer, Alexstrasza the Lifebinder, and Deathwing the Destroyer will now appear less frequently in all drafts. Certain neutral cards will now appear less frequently in classes they have low synergy with, and then they also made balance changes overall. The good cards, you'll see less of them in certain classes. The bad cards, you'll see more of them. Or the good cards, you see more of them in the bad classes. So, how often, Steve, I know you've been adjacent to some Masters Tour testing. How much did the due process thing matter in their testing? Was it something that came up?
I don't think it did very much because I mean mostly it would be around like it's a counter to Jailer Paladin, and Jailer Paladin seems to have dropped off pretty hard. So I don't know that it would have mattered that much, but I could see in a world where Jailer Paladin was OP that would have been, a high frequency bring. But I think that Jailer Paladin was dropping off. I'm interested to see what happens with Jailer Paladin now that bug is fixed, right? Because that I was hearing from some people like that's why we're not playing it, not necessarily in Masters Tour testing, just on Twitter. So I do wonder if some people might be willing to try it again that had given up on it because of that. I do wonder if the due process build of Ramp Druid drops off. I know that there's been like a non-due process build that's been, a little bit more popular. Again, not necessarily in Masters Tour testing, just going by, public Twitter, top decks. But yeah, I don't.
The VS list that was published today didn't run Naga Giants at all and ran to Attorney at Maw.
Yeah, I played a couple games with that. That card is very good. That it felt. I only used it to silence. I never used it to make anything immune. But having a 2-mana silence, it felt that wasn't gonna blow up your entire board. It felt very good. And it's got a pretty cool entrance line. But yeah, I don't know how much of that. I think people are kind of cooled on Jailer Paladin in general, just because it is so all in, and and again, I'm speculating, but that feels like the kind of deck that, like they didn't want to play like Holy Paladin, right? When Holy Paladin was good, and this is like more straightforward even than Holy Paladin. So it feels like it's not the kind of deck that would capture the imagination of those players either, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So, and keep in mind this balance patch here is one that it's server side, it's a hot fix. They want to make sure they got due process fixed for the Masters Tour, but we have a window for a constructed balance patch next week. Wild speculation. What do we think they're going to hit? Well, okay. There's wild speculation and also there's Hunter Nurse. So, I think we can safely say there's going to be a Hunter change. Do either of you think that Harpoon Gun is not getting reverted?
No, I could see it. It's funny how just like how much of a difference one number makes, but it feels not too good, but it feels like it's the glue that's holding that deck together. And I could see it going back to where it needed to be, or where it started rather.
Yep.
Harpoon Gun was one of those cards where it was like, it was the best card in Hunter before they buffed it, or at least a very good card in Hunter before they buffed it, and then it was ridiculous. So I think it's totally fine to put that back, and seems like pretty low hanging fruit. Turn 4 Mountain Bear is really early. Turn 5 should be good enough.
Turn 4
Turn 4
Hydrolodon's really early too.
Turn 4 Hydrolodon is the thing that I want to not happen. I want that thing to not happen. I can deal with the Mountain Bear. I can't deal with deal 6 damage and make 17 power. I think that's too much for turn 4. It's too much. Is that all we think they're gonna do to Hunter?
I mean, I still think there's a world in which the bears that come out of Mountain Bear are 2/3s. Just because like 4 health is a pretty big breakpoint. I mean, it just does kind of end the game against a number of aggressive decks. And I think that like having to spend one less hit into each one of them might be enough to keep it from stabilizing in the mid game. Against something like, if you think about like Imp Warlock, right? Like everything's got 3 attack. So like if you're running 2 imps, unless you play like, Rafam on 6, but outside of that, right? Like Mischievous Imp is 3, the imps that come out of Tamsin are 3. A lot of things do 3 damage. So if you're having to run 2 imps into one of those, like it's just so much damage you have to sink into the taunts. And I mean, the fact that you're running Nagic Hexen and Naga Priest again just to take the Mountain Bear, because that's the one thing that stops you. I mean, you run sometimes one Shard of the Naru, but even then, like, that's not always there. And I think the list that runs Nagic Hexen cuts Shard of the Naru anyway. But Mountain Bear feels like the big turn. Like, you're going into turn 7, you're always worried about Mountain Bear, and then, like, how am I going to get through it? And a lot of decks just don't have a really good answer for it. And it's just like, hope they don't have it.
Let's see. Mountain Bear, I mean, Mountain Bear is powerful. I do think that with a Harpoon Gun pulling it back like it feels like it'd be more fair, it's still a lot of stats inside of it.
Even on 7, it's a lot, though.
Yeah. What else is there? They put a Pyroblast inside Tavish. I could easily see that not being a thing. So, like, how do you fix that? I don't know, I guess Tavish to 7 could be something they do. I don't foresee that.
I don't even think Tavish is... I don't think Tavish is the problem in that deck, really. Like, Tavish... I mean, even, like, the Pyroblast, like, you get it less often because there are more secrets in the pool now. And, like, it's... If they... other than, like, the Ice Trap interaction that I ran into, that doesn't seem like a bug because they didn't fix it. That might be the way that it's intended. Like, you can play around that relatively cleanly at that point in the game. I don't know. I mean, the Wild Seeds feel fine at this point. Like, I don't think they're really... Like, once they brought the weapon down, those don't really feel like they're a big issue anymore. I mean, they're there. They're powerful, but they don't feel, like, out of line. I don't know.
What do you think, Edel?
I mean, I kind of don't feel like Hunter is that repressive anyways. Like, the Harpoon Gun is the most obvious thing to me, but I kind of don't know where to go from there. Maybe make the Stag a 4/4 instead of a 5/4. I don't know. There are a lot of numbers to tweak in Wild Seeds. I don't know what would necessarily be the right one if you were to take that angle.
Yeah, Wild Seeds. I mean, first of all, Spirit Poacher to 2/1, I think would be pretty reasonable. Like, it's
sure.
It's a 2-drop. It's a 2-mana 2/2.
That's like a
already.
2-mana 4/7. Like, that thing has so many stats baked inside of it. You're not getting just 2/2 in stats. I wouldn't mind the base body. I wouldn't mind the base body being a little weaker, but yeah, I could also see changing the seeds themselves. I mean, I don't know if you could justify taking a number off all three of them, but if it was a 2/1 rush, 2/4 taunt, and a 4/4 stag, they'd still be
That'd be
good,
pretty
right?
tough.
I don't think we're going to do
maybe-
all three of those. I don't know if we're even going to touch the seeds at all.
Yeah.
Like Sidisi's somewhere, like, feeling tightness in his chest, just, like, knowing that this conversation is happening.
But Hunter needs to get worse. It needs to get worse.
It does, but it's like, you look at the cards and it's like, not like, other than, like, Harpoon Gun, we can look at, like, Mountain Bear feels a lot of the time like the one that they slam it and then is really impactful. But, like, everything else you kind of look at and it's like, yeah, but it's not that bad. Like, they're like, none of the individual cards feel that out of line individually, right? And it's not even like a combo, like a package. It's not like Kael'thas, Brandon, Athreus, right? Where you can look at those three cards together and say there's a problem with those three cards. It's just kind of like how everything in the deck kind of builds off of each other, but it's not like any specific combination of cards even that, other than like Saber Pet Collector, but I feel like if you take that away, you just kill the deck entirely. And even then, I don't know.
So, in part, this is what happens when Hunter or Paladin is the best deck, and it plays to the board. If it's Quest Hunter, by the way, this conversation is null and void. It has to be a board-based Paladin or Hunter deck.
If it's Quest Hunter, it's already been nerfed before we get to this point, so it's fine.
Well, or it's close to getting nerfed, and then people tweet about it for a month, and then it gets nerfed. So, Hunter and Paladin, when they have board-based decks, they often overperform statistically, especially at not top Legend ranked brackets. They see disproportionately low play at top Legend. We see conversations like the one we're seeing around Beast Hunter now, and like we saw in Voyage, of it's not that hard to play around, and I don't find it to be that oppressive. And then you look at the stats, and it is completely insane. So, this is a good deck to be the best deck, but it is too good at being the best deck, so it needs to be pulled back a little bit. Not a ton, but I think just Harpoon Gun by itself wouldn't be enough. So, I took the most popular deck since Mon Disorder, 17,000 games at Diamond through Legend. I sorted by mulligan win rate. Now, Steve, I know you said it's not any particular combination of cards. The top 2 mulligan win rate cards are Spirit Poacher and Wild Spirits in that order. Spirit Poacher, if you keep it in the mulligan, you win 64.5% of your games. 64.5%, followed by Wild Spirits, 63.1%. Peasant right after that, 62.1%, then Pet Collector, Erelon, Tavish, and Badagast. So, the Wild Seeds are the top 2 cards here, by a good bit. Erelon is one of 7 cards that is in the green in the mulligan, which tells me there's something going on with the Wild Seeds here. Now, they do overperform early, but that's the whole point. I had this discussion on Twitter this week. There are historical best decks, historical good decks, where you can ask, what is this deck's weakness, right? What is Ramp Druid's weakness? Wide aggro. Pretty straightforward. What is Control Shaman's weakness? Damage from hand. What is Quest Priest's weakness? Mostly also damage from hand, I think.
Yeah.
But you can point to an archetypical weakness. Beast Hunter, what is its weakness? Blessed Priest. Just Blessed Priest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And not really anymore, you know.
and I will tell you, in my THL match day against Corridon, which he made very close and he demolished me, I left his hunter up. Shouldn't have done that probably, but ended up getting there in the match. But he had turn 1, Trog Coin Trog, turn 2 Poacher, turn 3 Wild Spirits, turn 4 Wild Spirits. I didn't make it. Wasn't going to get there. Obviously, that's a nut draw, but it was a very nutty nut draw. I faced 3 bears and 2 stags in the first 5 turns of that game, and the numbers on those cards are ridiculous. Like, not the stats and the mulligans, the numbers on the board in play that my opponent struck me with. There were a lot of 5-4s and 2-5 taunts. So, to see the Wild Seeds this far up, I would not be surprised if the answer to the question, what beats Beast Hunter, we want that to be aggressive pressure that gets under the big beasts. Because theoretically, decks that start with the word big should be weak to smaller things. So, the Wild Seeds kind of shore that up, and I expect that they'll need a touch. Could be making Spirit Poacher a weaker body. I could see that actually being relevant. Could be nudging maybe one of the Wild Seeds. I don't know. My instinct is probably Taunt Bear. That's where I want the taunt health to go down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
5 health is a lot on
It's a ton. But I don't know, I don't want this deck to be gone. I don't think it's going to be gone. I don't think it's going to get Voyage Warriored. They're not going to nerf 5 cards here.
No, it's Harpoon Gun and something, right?
Harpoon Gun and something, yes. That sounds about right. Do we think there's anything else?
I mean, I guess it's a matter of, like, what is Hunter keeping down right now, right? Because, like, that's kind of looking around the corner. Because it everything except for Blessed Priest, right?
So do they change Blessed Priest? Because, like, Blessed Priest is the opposite. It is disproportionately low in play rate outside of Top Legend. At Top Legend, it is everywhere. It is so...
Yeah, but it's also
common.
got, like, there's a lot of red in its matchup spread, right? Like,
Yeah.
the fact that it has a green in the Beast Hunter column, it fixes a lot of those problems because you're going to see a lot of them. So, like, if Beast Hunter becomes less played, Blessed Priest does not stay quite as prevalent. It's the same reason that when Rogue was the last time that it was really prevalent was when Rogue was popular, when Miracle Rogue was popular. because it would beat that. And then Miracle Rogue got nerfed, and then that deck went away for a while. So I don't know that Blessed Priest is really going to be the issue. I wonder if it's something like, you know, a deck that has like a lot of green across the board except in the Beast Hunter column. And I'm looking, I'm not seeing anything that looks like that. Maybe Imp Warlock or maybe Control Shaman. Control Shaman's actually got a lot of good. It's got mostly good matchups against almost everything except specifically Hunter and like Relic DH and Big Spell Mage. But I don't know that you necessarily need to touch Control Shaman.
I mean, Control Shaman's thing is like it has reasonable matchups, but like nothing is super polarized. So like you can still kind of lose to anything, even if you have a shot against anything.
Yeah.
And looking at the most popular cards in Standard, because I forgot that we can do this.
Oh,
there are two cards in the top 5 here that I do think stand out. So the top 5, Renathal is number 1, Denathrius number 2, Brand number 3, Theotar number 4, Okani number 5. There's a big gulf between Theotar and Okani. There's a big gulf between Renathal and everything else. I think Renathal and Theotar both deserve discussion, and even if Theotar doesn't deserve discussion, he's getting one over on Twitter.com on a daily basis. But let's start with Rennie. Is Rennie too much right now?
I mean,
no. The games definitely feel longer.
They are longer. I think that's like objectively true.
I mean, they don't feel longer to me, but you know, they wouldn't. But I mean, I think I wonder. I mean, what are you going to do with Renathal though? You're going to make it 35 health because like there are 2 numbers you can change on them, and neither is the mana cost or the stats on the card because those don't matter, right?
No, it has to be the health.
So it's either the health of the player or the cards in the deck, right? You could tweak the cards in the deck. You could say 35 cards, right? You could say 35 health, 35
cards isn't supposed to be a good thing.
No, I know, but I mean, you could, if you change one, you might, you know, do you have to change the other also, right? I don't know. Or you can make it 45 cards. To make it more, you know, more variant, because 40 doesn't seem very variant right now. Like Beast Hunter is the best deck in the meta. It is a 40 card deck, and it is very consistent.
I think that's in part due to the cards that we're dealing with in the deck, though. There are quite a few Renathal decks that are a lot less reliable. If we look at overall stats, I do think that right now it seems like it's disproportionately represented by decks. Nope, never mind. Top 5 decks, there is one Renathal deck, and it is Hunter on HS Replay. In the last 7 days, it's Beast Hunter, Aggro Druid, Curse Imp, Regular Imp, Naga Priest. Spooky Mage and Control Shaman right below it, and then Enrage Warrior. I don't know. It's a pretty good mix, but the Renathal decks are not consistently overperforming or even doing all that well outside of Spooky and Control Shaman, except for Beast Hunter, which has a bunch of other stuff going on.
Right. And I mean, I guess the question is, so I don't know that you need to touch Renathal until you've made a change to Beast Hunter, right?
Yeah.
Because of that. Because, like, Beast Hunter is, like, you're seeing a lot of Renathal because you're seeing a lot of Beast Hunter right now.
Mm-hmm.
And remember that their litany last patch was high confidence changes. I would not be confident about what happens to a meta after a Renathal nerf. I would have no idea what happens, because none of us were expecting what happened with the introduction of Renathal. So perhaps it's just like there are too many ripples in the pond here that aren't worth charting out at the end of an expansion when they may not even have another balance window. But I am fairly confident that if they nerfed Theotar, there would be mass social media celebration. I don't know about meta impacts, but if they just nudged that card up by a mana, it would still see less play, right?
You'd have a collective singing of Ding Dong the Witch is Dead, probably.
And he wouldn't be dead, right?
Not dead, but
No, but yeah.
Like, would 5-mana Theotar see enough of a reduction in play that people would stop complaining about it, or at least that the complaints would be less frequent? Like, that's the question I have. It's how much less play would he see at 5? Because the decks that he's in right now are slower. He's not in really any faster decks. Like, I guess you could call Relic DH a little fast. Not really, kinda. But he's in a bunch of, like, Shaman and Mage and Druid and all that, like, 4 to 5. I don't feel like it matters that much, does it?
It does because of the 1600 dust that you get when you dust it.
Sure.
That and just signaling. Like, you look at a 4-mana 3/3 and you're like, okay, that's bad stats for its cost, but like it's not terrible because the effect sometimes wins you the game. You look at 5-mana 3/3 and like those stats are bad. Those are ultra bad. So I think it's just like extra signaling and in particular I look at 8 mana is a turn where there's like a lot of stuff you want to do on 8, whereas 7 not necessarily, and that is where you are in Bran Theatar territory. So moving Bran Theatar from 7 to 8, I think is also kind of a big deal. Yeah, I think just 1 mana to it would do a world of difference.
Yeah. I mean, it's also like you're into Shadowhunter Vol'jin territory at 5 mana,
Mhm.
right? And like that card is not seen play even long before Theatar was a glimmer in anybody's eye.
Well, and there was a
Oh.
period where people were like, Vol'jin's good. People should be playing more Vol'jin, and they
Right.
just weren't, right? They played Mutinous instead.
There was
And
like
I mean, that's-
one
yeah.
Masters Tour where I think it was good.
Yeah, and I mean Vol'jin's a little bit different because like you have if you're pulling like an 8/8 or a 10/10 out or a 10/10 with lifesteal, for example, you have to have a way to deal with that, which you're not going to have on 5. But even so, like I first of all, it's going to say like do you really want to do this that you're willing to spend 5 mana for it, and also, hey, wouldn't you like 1600 dust to go craft another legendary or make one of your other legendaries golden? Doesn't that sound nice? All you'd have to do is just not take cards out of your opponent's hand for a while. What doesn't that sound okay to you? You know? So I mean, certainly at lower ranks, like at the more casual ranks where he's being played because he's in list, like people will dust him and not have a second thought. And if you're nerfing for feels, and again, spoiler, you're always nerfing for feels, but specifically like you're trying to reduce the play rate across the board, that will do it just because a lot of people will take the dust.
I find it plausible, but also I find it plausible that the decks that it's in, where people just expect the games to go long and don't want to lose to Denny, they just don't cut it, and then it still happens.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not taking it out of a Thief Priest ever. I mean, they
Right.
could like because like I pay more than that for like worse cards to take cards from my opponent. Like I play Draconid Operative in that deck. You know, so like that's I mean, yeah, it's a 5/6, but still, right? Like it's there are decks that will need to run it because if you lose to combo, like Theatar still serves a purpose, which is giving decks that just lose to from hand combos a chance, right? It's a small chance, but it's a chance. And in some of those decks, you do still need to play it. You should probably pay more of a tax than you are for that, though.
The question is, what do we need to do to give from hand decks a chance? Because let me tell you, in the same THL match today, I played both Druid and Shaman, and I snacked on so many mins with Mutinous, and I did a Bran Theatar to take a Denathrius and Frozen Touch. Like just
You're starting to sound like
taking
me.
I did it because I had to, not because I wanted to. All right, you need to bring 4 decks to Conquest. But it's... I really don't want Theatar to be in highlight reels on day 1 of the next expansion. If he's a 5-mana 3/3, would we see him on day 1 of next expansion in large numbers in unrefined decks? I think there's a chance we might, and I think that would be a terrible experience.
So what do you do with him then?
6 mana 4/4. 6 mana 4/4, that is a material, meaningful change to the turn commitment that you have. You can't fit him in half a turn anymore. That is your turn. If you want to Bran him, that's 9 mana.
So we just
That's
Stealer
a choice
Souls
to
him?
include it. Yeah, it's... If I want
Maybe
this
I'm
card
not necessarily
to...
against it.
Yeah. I want this card to not be entrolled in videos on day 1 of the next expansion. Because if you do the new cool thing, combos just can't exist right now. What we think of as a combo is just Denathrius and then do it again. So if I want combos to exist on day 1 of the next expansion, and if I want this card to not be in videos, I don't think 5 mana 3/3 is enough for that, especially when decks will be unrefined on the first day. I don't know. What combo do we even have right now?
I mean, I'm sure Pocket Train is playing Boar Priest.
What combo do normal people play?
They're really...
Sethino?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When's the last time you played a game of Sethino combo, Edelweiss? How long's it been?
I've been playing Paladin. So when I get it off Countess, I guess.
I mean, people play Stheno in Relic Demon Hunter now. That's the Fel version. That still sees play.
Right, but that's not like
That's not a
Abyssal Dex
combo.
versus Atheno plus Abusive. That's
Yeah. No. That's not... It's a combo. It's not the combo. Yes, that's fair.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is here. We'll probably go round in circles here. I do think that overall there was the litany that they didn't nerf Theotar last time because they needed a Denathrius safety valve. I think I can safely say with the format at this point, I do not see that many Denathriuses, and if you want to beat that, you can. Renathal Denathrius decks cannot keep up with a lot of the aggro decks in this format. The aggro decks don't lose to 40 life in Denathrius. They lose to Mountain Bears. They lose to Wild Seeds into Mountain Bears. So if you pull Hunter back, I think aggro will do just fine. But Denathrius is just not a really big part of my day-to-day experience in the ladder. The slower decks can still play Theotar. So, I don't know. I don't believe that Denathrius needs to be defended against in such a major way by keeping Theotar as a large part of the format. But also, I don't know if he needs to be Steelered all the way up to 6 mana 4/4. Just, I really don't want day 1 of next expansion to be about the most hated card from this expansion.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very tilting experience. And at a certain point, that leads to exit points. Losing to those decks also leads to exit points. So it's a balance, but is the cure worse than the disease? And it feels like right now it is. Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, that was all wild speculation. Makes me hungry. Well, it's a good thing we've got some food-based portraits in the shop. We've got the Carnivore Warriors, Goulash Garrosh, Burger Uther, and also Fishy Finley. Feast your eyes on a fresh fishy face in this new bundle. By the way, he's eating sushi. We have confirmed with Blizzard Dev, specifically Jen Stacy, that this is not cannibalism.
Yes. Apparently, Murlocs are closer to frogs than fish. That's what I learned this week.
It's not cannibalism, it's just the food chain.
Yeah. It's nature.
Yeah. We got explicit clarification from Blizzard Development. So, not cannibalism. I wish these were a la carte.
Yeah.
But
which would be appropriate given that they're food based.
They're food based. You should be able to do a la carte. Yeah. I wish I could buy just these. I don't want Paladin packs. I don't want Warrior packs. I just want Burger Uther.
I don't even want Goulash Garrosh. I just want Burger Uther.
Yes. But I can't just buy Burger Uther, so I'm trying to decide, do I spend $20 or 2,000 runestones on a portrait plus 3 other things that I don't care about, or do I just not? Probably just not. But I really want Uther eating a burger to be in my life.
And then when you're playing Silverhand Recruit Paladin, you could call it Five Guys Paladin.
Did you just push me over the edge? Steve, you owe me half of this.
I'm sure you'll make it up to me in some bet that you lose at some point.
Yes. Also, for what it's worth, 2,000 runestones or $20 is like barely enough for a one person at Five Guys anyway. So I guess it's appropriate.
Well, I mean, maybe in Manhattan.
It's if I get a bunch of stuff in my burger, that burger with fries and a shake and whatnot, that'll be like $20. That'll be.
I don't know. It never seems to cost that much when I go to Five Guys.
I gotta learn your secrets. Anyways, we don't have more news this week. We're just waiting. But we do have some tournament talk, so let's do that now.
It's the Grand Tournament!
So we do have Masters Tour Maw and Disorder starting this weekend. It is actually starting about 6 hours and change from when we're recording right now. Starts at Friday, October 7th at 12 a.m. Pacific, which is 3 a.m. Eastern, or 9 a.m. CEST, or 4 p.m. KST. So it'll be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Day 1 will be Swiss rounds 1 to 4. Day 2, Swiss rounds 5 to 8. And then day 3 will be round of 16, top 8, semifinals, and finals. $250,000 prize pool. And the winner obviously will get admission into, I believe it's winter championships that are going to be next month, which will be the lead up to Worlds. You will earn two Castle Nathria packs while watching on YouTube. So make sure that you are linked. Also, just general PSA. It's not going to be relevant for this particular tournament, but go check your BattleNet ID and make sure that it's linked to Twitch for future tournaments, because they made a change to how that authentication works. And mine was not when I went to go check it. So just
everyone has to relink. If you have not relinked, you have to relink.
Yeah. So go and do that. Just in general, make sure to do that and make sure you're connected. So that'll be coming there. There's an article that will probably be, at least for the folks in the stream, though it might be outdated by the time that you listen to this on the podcast. Den had written up a preview. He's not playing in the Masters Tour, but he's been helping to prep with some players who are. This sounds kind of like what I would expect, given that I'm seeing. But like the best Dex lineup, based on his analysis, is basically going to be something along the lines of Hunter, Priest, Mage, and Warlock. The Priest could be Blast or Naga, or less likely to be Thief Priest. But if you're talking about the best decks, it's going to be Bless or Naga, some sort of a spooky or big spell mage, and then either Curse Imp or just Imp Warlock. And then a lot of people are going to try to target either the Hunter or the Priest. So targeting the Hunter will good luck. or targeting the Priest, then you start running like no hands Tarantula build. You maybe run Thief Priest because it has a better shot against the Blessed Priest. Maybe Control Shaman because you get devolves, and then whatever mage you're running is just going to have a ton of freezes, right? And then you could also go to start thinking about what other people are going to bring, try to target mage because that's going to be the expected third deck. And then start, looking at something like a Ramp Druid or an Imp Curse Warlock, or maybe a Relic or Fell Demon Hunter, right? So this is always, and then of course there's going to be Ramp Druid, which is kind of the wild card, right? So what is Ramp Druid going to do? Again, is it the due process build or not? Who knows? But if you're expecting a lot of Ramp Druid, then you might go very aggressive to try to counter that. Hunter and Priest are pretty much going to be in your lineup no matter what, but then you have like aggro Druid, aggro Demon Hunter, a full Imp Warlock without the curses, that sort of thing. And this is all kind of just knowing what we know. Obviously, there may be another Lambie Rogue that comes out sometime in the tournament. I sincerely hope not as well. Because especially if we're getting balance changes right afterward again, I really hope there's not a curveball that throws everything off too much. But yeah, it's going to be a fun tournament. The usual casters, Gia will be casting again. This will be one of the last events that she's casting. So yeah, it'll be a fun event, and I'll of course have stats up at offcurve.com/masters tour probably the morning after, because I'm not waking up at 3 a.m. to watch the tournament. But I will start updating it when I wake up to get the kids on the bus, which will probably be a few hours later. So you'll be able to go there, and I'm sure that I will have some analysis of what people brought and what what card choices they made and stuff like that. Probably on Saturday, after we've seen all the Swiss rounds. Reminder that Super Gamer Girl Pro starts on Sunday. Friends of the show, Dragon Rider and Sway Bay are casting. We may or may not have a participant on our panel right now.
Oh, I don't know if I'm gonna make it this time.
Well, hopefully you feel better enough to do that, but understandable if you can't. But
I mean, I'm definitely playing this weekend, and I'll try and do one of the other weekends. But like, I have to win one of those.
yeah.
I'm gonna, I think, be subbing in for Sway on one of the weekends, so I'll be casting, not
Oh,
playing.
okay.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But
You're gonna win it with one hand tied behind your back anyway. It's fine.
I may just like be in kind of nanny mode and just I have not been playing, as much as previous years.
Just find a deck that's sufficiently close to Ghost of Tsushima, and you'll be fine.
Is that how that works?
Yes, that's absolutely how that works.
It's got
also,
a perfect parry.
Yeah. Yes. You just need a perfect parry. Like a counter spell, like that sort of thing. And also, Hearthstone Collegiate Masters starts on Monday. The registration is closing. If you are at a college and you have 2 friends, you should get yourself registered sometime this weekend to be in contention for that, because it's a large prize pool, and that seems like it's going to be a pretty cool successor to Tespa. So yeah, that's it. But Masters Tour this weekend, and this is gonna be the last one for the year. We just have Winter Championships and Worlds over the next 2 months. That's left in the competitive calendar before we find out, hopefully at some point, what the competitive system will be for next year, because we know there will be one, but we don't know what it is.
I'm itching
Well-
to find out.
Yeah, I'm really curious. But we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. It's time for explanations. We don't really want to talk about a deck when we think there's going to be nerfs next week. So we're going to try and do an evergreen topic. Improving at improving. Let's go.
So I think there is a point that people reach in Hearthstone where they sort of feel like, well, I've learned the basics. I've done all the Trump teachings, and I'm still looking to improve. Whether it's not necessarily hitting legend consistently, or you're just trying to improve some kind of star multiplier. Just next stage up from wherever you are. Sometimes it can just be hard to figure out what it is you're doing wrong and kind of articulate how you need to improve. I know this was a big complaint with Artifact, right? Obviously, a very different kind of game, but one of the things was people very quickly hit a point where they're like, I'm losing and I do not know how to get better. And that was because it was a very, very complicated game. But you can hit that point eventually with Hearthstone as well. So what does committing to learning look like? And I think a lot of it is time, honestly. You can try and do a lot with little if you work at it, but to some extent, like they say with chess, where the more games you play, then just the more board states you've seen, and so the more situations you can get out of. That's also very true of Hearthstone. comfort and growth are kind of at odds with each other, and playing mindlessly is like fine if you're not looking to go for any goals. But I think it's very important if you want to focus on getting better as well. It has to be the thing that you're doing in that session. So I play a lot of games, and this is a bad habit. While I'm watching something on the other screen, I got Twitch open or this other thing, multitasking. And like that's fine on a casual level, but if I'm like trying to be deliberate and trying to learn, you got to be focused. You got to be zoomed in. Um, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. That's something my fencing master would always tell us. So,
And if you don't want to do this, by the way, that's fine. You don't like the game does not need you to improve at it. And if you don't want to, and you decide I just want to play for fun, sure. But that means if you get mad at your rank while you're still trying to play for fun, you're trying to do both things, you got to pick one. You got to decide. So there's no need to say, well, this is going to be like a school lesson that I'm giving myself after work every day, or a second job. It doesn't have to be that way. But if you want to get better, we're going to give you some intentional guidance on how to be in that mindset. But if you're having fun at the level you're playing and you don't feel mad at your rank, by all means, keep doing that.
But for some people, winning is fun, right? And
Yeah.
so if you are that kind of person and you need to be winning in order to be having fun, and seeing the rank go up is the motivation, then there are things you need to do. The first thing is not to set that as your goal, because if we've had this conversation a number of times in the Discord, when you set a new a rank goal as your goal, there are things that are going to get in the way. This is a game with variance. There are things that pop up. That's not always possible. What you want to be doing is focusing on an aspect of the game that you could be doing better. Maybe it's getting better at a deck. Maybe it's better at trying to play around your opponent's common plays, or at least like taking more than 5 seconds before slamming a card. I'm saying that to myself.
Very important. And we're not going to be, by the way, we're not going to be giving like hard skill tips on, this is what you should be looking for in this mulligan. This is what you should be doing on curve for these turns. That's not what today is about, because though the things you have to learn are going to be different for each player. It's more about how do you structure the process of getting better at Hearthstone in general, regardless of where the holes in your game are.
Yeah, and it's so it's important to like focus on that. Is like I've I mean, now getting to legend is kind of expected, but like back when that was not expected, right? Like I never got to legend when I was worried about what my rank was. I would never get to legend when I was looking at how many stars I had and like treating every star as a possession, right? Like if you're in that mindset, then you're playing anxious and you're not really focusing on the right things. If you focus on learning some aspect of the game better, it doesn't even matter what it is, but just pick something that you need to work on, right? The ranks will come with that as you improve. You'll see it happen. It may not be immediately, and there will be some losses that you're going to take along the way, because that's how you learn. But it's not. It is something that you will know. You'll feel yourself getting better as that happens, as opposed to just focusing on the number in the lower left corner of the screen. So go ahead.
You want to be playing to get better, not playing to get a thing. That is that number. I remember from like Little League growing up, they would tell us play like the score is always 0-0. And what I find helps me is just having a lot of sort of matchup knowledge. So sometimes I feel like I'm at a disadvantage, early on, because not the meta's not necessarily figured out, right? So you're running into new things, and it's like, well, okay, I have to focus on my thing. You want to be playing a proactive deck because you don't necessarily know what your opponent's going to be doing. But when you are playing a deck that has more reactive stuff, you're going to be able to increase your percentages just by being able to look at your opponent's class and knowing, okay, this is how I approach the deck that this class is likely going to be, and what I need for that. So even though I'm playing Paladin, which is tier 2 or whatever, I can see my opponent's class and go, all right, this is a matchup where I know I'm going to need an equality clear. So I will keep inequality, or I'll keep a city tax, and I'll hold on to it, and I won't trade it away until I get some kind of indication that, oh, maybe I was wrong about what kind of deck my opponent was playing. But since that is like a 2-card clear combo, I need to make sure that I'm going to get those pieces. I think against aggro druid in particular, where it's like, if you don't have it, you just lose because the game ends so quickly. You kind of need it on 4 most of the time. Conversely, if I know, okay, this is Relic Demon Hunter, I need to pressure them, well, then I don't keep the clears, right? Then I'm looking for the early pressure and stuff. This was the same thing with Shaman. I could not figure out the Relic Demon Hunter matchup. I had gone on a tear. I was like undefeated against every other class, but Relic Demon Hunter as control Shaman. The stats were favored for the Relic Demon Hunter, but it wasn't that bad. But my stats were like 1 and 7. It was horrible. And I was clearly playing the matchup wrong. And when I realized, oh, I shouldn't be keeping answers for their stuff, I should just try and kill them, I did way, way better. Playing Schooling on 1 and then just running out the Piranhas on 3, all of them. Yeah. Making sure to have, you always want Caverns in that deck, but, making sure that you're prioritizing, looking for Caverns, looking for Clownfish, the early plays. There's ways you can play certain decks. And I think this leads me to kind of another core message, which is much more important than any discussions of decks being aggro or mid-range or control or combo or any of that stuff, is just role recognition within a matchup. Whatever deck you're playing, sometimes you're playing a control deck, but because of a certain matchup, you have to be aggro, right? You say, well, I can't beat the combo that they're building towards, so I have to pressure them. Or on the flip side, you're playing an aggro deck, but you're facing something else that is similarly an aggro deck. Do you have a way that maybe you're able to edge out in terms of resources? Well, then you're kind of the control in the matchup. If you look at aggro Demon Hunter versus aggro Druid, the Druid is the beatdown, because the Demon Hunter has a card that they play it and like refill up to 5 cards. Like the Demon Hunter typically is going to have more consistent card draw and refill, and they have more removal tools, right? That uses their face. But so you need to recognize when you are a certain role in a matchup and when you need to play to those specific kinds of outs.
That was a lot. There's a lot going on there.
Sorry.
So, but no, that's important. Like, we're talking about the most common question that we get asked. How do I move up a multiplier for 10x to 11x players? One of the most common questions we get asked. The kind of matchup knowledge that Edelweiss just demonstrated. That is meta-specific, but you learn the idea as to what matters in certain matchups based on skills developed across multiple metagames. You can make up for a lot of the general knowledge by, if you jam a ton of games in the meta and you have a lot of specific knowledge about how decks function, how they match up, you can make that up, but it might not last over time. But building up that kind of matchup knowledge and building a rubric for how you measure how different matchups go is something that will happen across different matchups. If you can say, oh yeah, this matchup reminds me of Dragon Hunter versus Galakron Drogue, and I remember how I played that one, and this is how I'll play it this time. Having that blueprint, having that structure of things you've done before that worked, remembering the patterns, identifying the specific key decision points. It's a bunch of skills in your skill set that you would develop over time across multiple metas. Learning how to get better is something that doesn't just happen in one expansion. You can play a lot and you can see significant improvement, especially from mastery over a deck. But the goal here isn't to learn a deck. The goal here isn't to learn a meta. The goal here is to become a better player.
Yeah, and this is also when you're in this learning mode, there's a line, right? And we've talked about this a few times, but you want to stay in the unfavored games too. Because at a certain point, like being able, the experience of being in those unfavored matchups will help you win some of them. Maybe it's not going to be even 50%, maybe it's 25%, but if you're winning 25% of your unfavorables and you're winning, a lot of your favorables, then that's just like a little percentage point that's going to help you be able to rank up later. But you never really learn how to win unfavorable matchups until you play a lot of them and lose a lot of them. And you're still going to lose most of them. But knowing the kinds of things you need to do when you're in an unfavored matchup and how you're unfavored, right? Like, are you unfavored because you're against a control deck that's going to kill you for 40 from hand, and you have to figure out a way to be the beatdown, which with a bunch of like little battle cry minions and a couple of taunts that are going to die, right? Or are you unfavored because you're playing an aggro deck against a control deck that has literally all the removal in the world? Okay, well, how do I build my boards to try to play around the kinds of removals that they have to try to get the damage through, right? But again, if you just like, okay, well, this is a control priest, I'm not even dealing with it, I'm just going to know about on turn one. You never get that experience, and then you don't get to learn. And those are transferable skills. Like understanding, like learning the matchups for a particular meta will help you in this meta. But in the game in the state that it's in now, where the meta changes on a monthly basis, more or less, like building up the transferable skills, like not necessarily knowing like how aggro druid plays into beast hunter, but knowing like how to pilot the aggro deck around knowing that there's a big taunt on 7 that you need to play around, right? And then structuring your turns appropriately. Like that's something that will transfer even if the decks change, even if the meta changes, even if the matchup changes. But those kinds of fundamentals will go with you from meta to meta.
And I think something that kind of goes with the playing the unfavorable matchups, those I feel are often the matchups where I tend to really emphasize something that I call playing to win rather than playing to not lose. Where you say, okay, I know this is a bad matchup, and I know if they have this thing, I probably lose. So I just play as if they do not have it. Even if that means you're just walking into a certain removal thing that they might have. Well, if you're gonna lose if they have it anyway, you may as well make them have it, because sometimes they just don't, and then they're dead. I mean, depending on what the thing is, but there are certain times where I think people will play in anticipation of something or play kind of scared, and then that just gives the opponent more time to find the thing that they were scared of.
Yeah. Like knowing to play around things is level 1, and then knowing when you shouldn't is level 2. Right? But you need to build up the experience of playing around things before you know when you shouldn't play around things. Right?
Getting dangerously close to giving hard skills here. Dangerously close. It's like,
well,
this is second nature to us, right? Because this is what we do in coaching sessions, and we have examples in the moment, and then we say, and then we zoom out from this example. Here's what's going on here, right? Because it's like when we watch replays back, why did you hero power there? Well, I didn't want to play my minion who was just going to die. Let them use their removal spell, otherwise they still have it. You got to play it. But when we look in the larger picture here, yeah, it's all about building these structures for ourselves and then improving on them. I think the point that I want to belabor the most is the way to polish these skills. Get to your ranked plateau for the month. Get to the point of the peak of where you're going to be, and then keep playing against the toughest opponents you will play all month so that you belong there. Steve, we've had this conversation how many times about 11x? How many times?
Too many times.
Yeah.
It finally got into my skull, but it took a while.
It's a lot of what I see people do when they're looking for that elusive 11x multiplier. They get to like 1200 and they're like, I'm going to camp. Stay right here. Might get it. See what happens. The goal is not to get 11x. The goal is to be an 11x player. And you get there by getting to 11x territory and then playing games. And then you earn your way there every time and feel ready for opponents of that quality consistently.
Yeah, because
So-
the thing that nobody tells you about getting to those plateaus is that your reward is playing against the tougher players. So if you want to be able to continue to play, you need to learn how to do that. Right? Like people talk about 11x as though it's an easier it's easy mode for the climb. First of all, if you're at close to that level anyway, like the diamond 5-to-1 climb is not that much harder. It's just a little bit more time consuming. But I've had 11x climbs that took me just as long as 10x climbs because it turns out the people who you match against at 11x are better players than the players you match against at 10x. Not a judgment call, just objectively, that's the case, right? So like you'll get to legend with 11x, but you might get there with a 35 or 40% win rate, as opposed to the win rate that you would get with just playing against 10x players.
Yeah. I have found the non-legend climb, the climb to legend on 11x to be as difficult or more than 10x just because I would have like 35, 40% win rates and just get my butt kicked all the time because I wasn't sure what to do. It happens to me probably every 3 months. It's very, very challenging. You're playing against some of the best players in the game. But, that's what we're trying to do here is not how do I get legend, how do I get this rank thing, how do I get to be a bigger player. When you get to be a better player, the higher rank is a symptom, but it's not the goal. It's not the thing we're aiming for. It's the symptom. So to get there, you just consistently play a whole bunch of Hearthstone. You got to realize this is going to be a time commitment sort of thing, because you got to build up your matchup knowledge so you can sound like what Edel and Steve do. You want to make sure that you can sound like them when you're able to speak to what your deck is doing. You'll be able to vocalize the plan and then also execute it. You have to be able to do that. You have to understand what the rules are and then understand when you're going to break them. But that means you got to play a bunch of Hearthstone. Like a bunch. Like a lot. Because if you want to improve, you do that by playing games. You don't improve by not playing games. Now, in the process, this is something that comes up all the time in our show. You got to have a lot of emotional awareness and bias control. I think I'm going to firmly just say that I think that ranked goals are evil because you never get to decide when you win. You get to decide when you play. And if you've ever told yourself, well, I'm going to take time this weekend and get rank 5 or get legend or whatever, what happens that weekend? Anger. Angry happens.
I this weekend I got to re-experience this because I was playing TFT on Sunday and got to Platinum 1 99 LP. So
Oof.
you go up to Diamond at 100. So I got first place in one of my games and ended at 99 LP, and I was not happy. And I have still not gotten to Diamond in TFT, despite playing a bunch of games after that. So like, oh yeah, I'll just play one more game, or I'll just play 2 more games after I lose that one, and then I take an 8th and I'm back down. So like, it's but that was a specific goal as opposed to just focusing on, well, maybe I need to learn this a little bit better, right? Like, no, let me just play this one game and just top 4. Oh, I'm just gonna top 4 against players who are mostly in a higher rank than I am. I'm just going to top 4 and it's going to be fine. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. Like, you still need to be paying attention. And the other thing that goes into playing with a learning mindset is recognizing that you're able to play in that mindset, right? Like physically, emotionally going into it. Like I've had a couple weeks here where I've said like, I need to learn not to play Hearthstone on Tuesday after my hell day at work if I'm concerned at all about my rank, because I'm not playing at my best. I am playing, as Jared Tendler would say, my C game when I'm playing after that. I'm not even playing at my B game because I'm already tired. I'm already annoyed because I've had to yell at vendors or whatever. And now I'm going into Hearthstone, and Hearthstone is not going to improve my mood when I'm in that kind of a state. And I'm certainly not, laser focused on what I'm supposed to be doing. I've got Twitter open, like Edel said. I've got, somebody else to stream. I'm sorting magic cards in the side in between turns. I'm not necessarily focused on on the actual game. So I'm missing things. I'm missing things on my opponent's turn that would have been important information when you're a certain level. That's, once up to a certain point, it doesn't really matter. Once you get to a certain point, you need to pay attention to those things. And like, I'm not thinking about, I'm playing cards 5 seconds after the turn flips, right? Like, I'm not taking time and thinking about, well, what do I do? What are they going to do? What do I have? What's my game plan for the next couple turns? I'm just, okay, here's a green card. I'm going to play the green card. And I'm playing, and I'll win some of those games, but I'm certainly not going to win as many as I would if I was in a better state. And like, that's a point where maybe I need to go play duels if I want to play Hearthstone, right? Or start an arena run, or play wild, because my wild multiplier is not where I care about it, or something else. But just recognize that if you're going to be trying to improve your rank, then you need to treat that not necessarily as a possession, but you need to treat that with respect for what you need to do in order to be able to play at the level that you expect from yourself.
Yep. And expectation can vary too. Like, if you see a deck list and you're like, I want to drink a beer and play this on my iPad and jam this memey deck list, right? Some Vandar Secret Rogue. Sure, I expect to lose every game I play with that deck. Also, I'm not going to be mad when that happens. Cool. If I want to improve, then I don't, turn on the focus when I have no focus to give. So it's just a question of making sure that you understand what expectations that you are setting with yourself and with the game. Because you can set goals of improvement, and you can also have a day where that's not a thing that you're doing. You got to have resting states. You got to give yourself vacation sometimes. And honestly, it's important. Hearthstone's supposed to be fun. It's a video game. You want to have fun with the game. So if you treat it like work to improve at every single day you play it, every single time you log in, I struggle to see how that would remain fun. I don't think it would remain fun unless you are a tournament grinder and that's all you do, in which case you don't need to listen to me. You already know this stuff. But you need to make sure that you're giving yourself a chance to have fun with the game. Play a different format. Play a goofy deck at a certain point. Like, maybe you say the last week of the month, I'm just going to play whatever I want to play. Or maybe after I get Legend, but before the last week of the month. If you want to make a push to 11x, right? You can't do it the last week of the month. You can't just tank your rank that way, especially if you're going for to play against higher MMR players. But maybe in between there, you pick a day or something to play something wackier. Use casual mode. Whatever you want to do. Make sure that you find a way to step on the brake instead of the gas, at least at some point, to make sure that your association relationship with Hearthstone does not become a business-like one, because that will just suck all the fun right out of the game. Can't do that. You got to find the balance. So, ranked goals, emotional awareness. Oh, yeah. Also, emotional awareness, that's a skill. You have to get good at that to be good at Hearthstone. Because you know what's going to happen? Sometimes they're going to top deck Rune of the Archmage, and then they're going to play it, and then you're going to lose to Rune of the Archmage, and you have to keep living your life after that. You have to keep playing Hearthstone after that. Tolerance for swings, getting rid of any sense of entitlement about I deserve that game and it was taken away from me. If you don't master that, you won't improve.
Yeah.
Really, really, really important.
And I think a key thing there as well is after, I would say both like big RNG losses like that, or and also maybe just if you lose 3 in a row or something, maybe close the client, or if not close the client, just like take a step back, take that time to get a snack, go to the bathroom, definitely like step back. When I'm on stream and stuff like that happens, I'm usually like, all right, I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna go make some tea or something, right? That's how I kind of stay chill when those things happen. And it's just you gotta build that up, because yeah, playing through the tilt is no bueno.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And the other thing that you need to be able to do is, like, when you do get blown out, it's important to take a step back and say, what could I have done that game to play that wouldn't have happened? Because a lot of times when you get blown out by the big swing, not all the time, and even just being able to sort these is a skill, right? But a lot of times it wasn't the card that killed you that lost you the game.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times it's some decision that you made, maybe 10 turns. Well, I shouldn't say 10 turns because I'm the only one who's playing games that have 10 turns earlier.
Yeah.
But
How would a
maybe, like,
decision I made last game impact this game, Steve?
But maybe like 5 turns earlier, you made a decision and that snowballed, right? Like we've had games, I mean, even in our THL Discord, where, you know, somebody got like where somebody's playing like Quest Hunter in the last meta and they were like 2 off lethal and then they got blown out by something, and, you know, we went through the replay. It's like, well, you used a spell on this minion that wasn't threatening you. You know, you missed the hero power on this turn, so and so and so. Add up all that damage, that comes out to like 6 damage, and you had them at 4. Right? Like, those are the kinds of things that you're not necessarily going to see in the moment. This is why reviewing replays, or even just like stopping to think about like critical turns that came earlier, is important, especially after those really big wins. Like, I do this on stream a lot, where I'll just kind of take a minute, and it helps you reset too, right? Like, just taking that minute of not immediately pressing the button in a rage, but like stopping and thinking, like, what could I have done to keep that from happening? Was there anything I could have done differently in that game that would have prevented that? Because sometimes you do find it, and that's how you learn, right? If you take those kinds of, because that loss is going to sting, right? And if you can take a lesson like, hey, this loss felt like putting my hand on the stove, so let's figure out how to not put our hand on the stove so I don't feel that again, then that's how you're going to get better, kind of by the school of hard knocks in a way.
Now, Steve, did you say reviewing replays? I think that is a magnificent segue into actively engaging with support mechanisms and swallowing your pride in the process. This is a very important part of improvement. When you want to learn something in most of life, you go to school. There's a teacher. Now, there are coaches and direct lines of education that you can take in Hearthstone, but also, swallow your pride, post some replays, maybe in some place welcoming like the Coin Concede Discord. There are a lot of people that have said, I don't want to post my replays, I'm ashamed of my play. First of all, there's no judgment. We've all been there. We've all made mistakes. We've all missed lethal many, many times.
Yeah.
Second of all, how are you going to stop making the plays you're embarrassed about if you don't learn how to fix them? Post replays. Let other people look. By the way, when you do this, also listen to feedback. If you're posting replays and then people tell you what they would have done differently and you disagree with them all the time, and you lost the game, why did you post the replay? What are you looking for? Because if it's not some understanding that everyone makes mistakes in every game of Hearthstone they play, and that you are looking for yours and you are looking for help, if that's not what you're looking for, don't bother posting. But post a replay. And then use out-of-game educational resources. Watching other people play a deck you want to learn can be really, really helpful, because you'll see the decisions that they make that you don't make and say, hey, maybe I can do what they're doing too. In it, Steve, you unmuted instead of muting. Got it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Also, you can go on HS Replay. You can briefly look at mulligan and matchup stats. Just get an idea. Don't stay on HS Replay. Play more games. It's a reference, not a book. Look at it, then go play more games. It is very easy to fall into analysis paralysis. Reading reports, watching videos, checking HS Replay, poring over the data to find the smallest academic edge in matchups. No. Play Hearthstone. That is where you get better at Hearthstone, by playing Hearthstone. Educate,
And I will say,
don't research.
I probably don't do enough looking at HS replay because oftentimes, I'll enter coaching and someone will take me there and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I never really thought to do that because my standard mode has always been to just try stuff and see if it works and see how
Yeah.
it feels.
And I like doing that
then-
as well for like the first 5 games or whatever. I'll just throw a list in the client and play, and then I'll usually look at HSR after that and be like, oh, this is what I was doing wrong. But it's nice to see like how does a deck feel when I first pick it up.
Yeah, usually when I end up losing a lot of games that I feel like I should be winning, it's often because I'm mulliganing wrong, and then I go look at HS replay and confirm that suspicion.
Right. Yeah. I mean, going back to that Demon Hunter example with the control shaman before, right? Like,
Yeah.
that was a situation where I like needed to look at this stuff because I just couldn't figure it out. But most of the time, I sort of get there and often wind up at a similar place to the stats just by going, well, this is what I feel like, right? And particularly because I prefer to sort of do matchup specific mulligans. Obviously, it depends. If you're doing something super proactive, then you're less matchup specific. But yeah.
I think the other thing about posting replays that is valuable, or getting a coaching session or whatever, is that it's not the plays that you're embarrassed by that are the problem a lot of the time. It's usually the plays that you don't know you're making wrong. Right. And you're never going to see those on your own. I mean, sometimes you can review your own replays. And if you are the kind of person who can look at it with a detached enough mind to look at your plays objectively and say, hey, that was not the right thing to do, then you can get there. But that takes a fair amount of skill even to be able to do that. And a lot of times you may not even know that like you're over trading, right? Like someone will like, this happens a fair amount in our THL Discord where I'll post a replay. It's like, someone please tell me if this was winnable or not. And then how to look at it, it's like, why did you do this? Why wouldn't you just do X? And it's like, yeah, why wouldn't I? Right?
That does sound
But
like
if
something I would say. Especially if
But-
it was about why did you trade. That's come
Yeah.
up a couple times.
Yeah, or same thing if it's a control deck and I'm looking at it and I'll be like, well, why did you use this? That minion wasn't threatening you. Why did you clear it?
Oh, yes.
I don't know. I just you know.
It's this. Yeah, this. I don't mean to give the impression that it is just me correcting Steve's tendencies. Sometimes I have to play a slower deck because there aren't enough aggro decks in the format, or because my opponent is keenly aware I'm going to bring quad aggro, and so then I bring Quest Priest or whatever, and then I play it very poorly and lose, and then I say, Steve, please tell me where I went wrong, not if, because I know I did.
Yeah, but that's going and knowing that there are things that we're doing wrong, right? But like when you're like losing and you don't know why, sometimes it takes somebody else like pointing out things that you may not even be realizing you're doing. Like I talked about this a few times, but like there was a point in time when I was just like hard stuck, and I went to my friend Peltire, who at the time it was a little bit removed from playing in top 16 at HTT playoffs. And he was kind enough to call it a co-op, but it was a coaching session. I will still say that to this day. But it was like we were playing together, and then I realized like I was just playing turn to turn. Like I wasn't playing with any sort of like a multi-turn plan in place. And he would be just asking me, well, what are you trying to do? Right? Like, what are you trying to get to? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just going to play this. No, like you want to do this on 6, right? It's turn 4. How do you get there? Right? And then like that just kind of opened that up for me to say like, I am thinking like just turn to turn and not thinking about like a game plan. But that's not the kind of thing I would ever find on my own, right? Like I needed somebody like watching me play to say, you're not doing this right, and you may not even realize that you're doing it. And that's the kind of thing that is valuable from having somebody look at a replay, or even the kind of thing that like one thing that you can do, right, is that when you get to a turn where you're really not sure what to do, just take a screenshot. Take a screenshot of that one turn. You can even do this on an iPad if you're playing on an iPad. But take a screenshot of that one turn, and then when you get to the end of the game, look back at that screenshot and think about what you did, and was it the right thing to do, and how did that play out? And if you're still not sure, that's when you post to the Discord and say, hey, what would you do here? Right? Like we had that conversation about like we talked a couple weeks ago, like when you're Quest Priest and you played Theatar and you're against a Warlock, you can take Darkvein or Dreadlich Tamsin. And that was like a good 15-minute debate, right? That went in a lot of different directions. Because
I was wrong. I was wrong.
It looks like I think we landed on that it's Dreadlich Tamsin, but it looks like it's Darkvein, like when you're first looking at it, right? But then it's like, well, no, you're taking away the draw, you're making it so they can't fill up their hand. We're getting into hard things, but you get the idea. Like the things that seem obvious may not be. And so getting another perspective on them can also help you learn and kind of think about the game a little differently.
And a lot of this is about building a structure for yourself. And structure is really important. So I strongly recommend writing stuff down, figuring out what mistakes you commonly make that you recognize each game, what are some bad habits you have, what do people see in your replays. I had, for years, a notepad document that I would open up where I would write down 2 questions for myself. Am I the beatdown? Yes or no? And what card am I playing around right now? Because the year before that, every single time I played against a druid, I would end the turn and then say, well, I only lose to swipe. Wait a minute. And then they would swipe me, and then my board would get cleared, and I would lose the game. Every single turn, I would do these amazing value trades. I would leave all my stuff alive, and all their stuff would be dead. And I would press end turn, and then I would think about swipe. So I started writing down, am I the beatdown, yes or no? And what card am I playing around right now just to keep it in front of me? And when I wrote that down, and before I made my plays each turn, I would just say, how do I not get swiped off the face of the planet? And I got a little better.
And if you're not sure what you should be playing around, go to Vicious Syndicate or go to HS Replay, take the most popular deck, screenshot it, keep it in a folder somewhere, bring it up when the game starts. Have it in front of you. Go look at the number of turn, what mana they're going to be at. Look at what their best play is for that turn. You don't necessarily need to be doing hand reading. There's some stuff that, maybe you would get better, but even like Deck Tracker does a lot of that. But just like, what's the best thing they want to do this turn? Can I play around that a little bit? Or can I set it up so that doesn't wreck me?
By the way, shout out to Alex Pup in the chat for reminding me that my swipe of this meta is Spammy Arcanist. I lose to that card all the time for no reason other than I don't think about its existence.
Yeah.
There's actually a sweet feature in HS Replay now as well. If you are, pretty sure or even certain of your opponent's deck and can look up the most popular list, HS Replay lets you bring that deck and put it onto your opponent's side in their little tracker thing. So it will track as though they are using that list. There might, that could be a drawback if they do play a card that is different. But like you can use this in tournaments now, and it's great where it's open deck list, and you're like, I know this is my opponent's deck. Let me drop this in, and Aegis Replay will then be able to give you all the information of like, okay, they already played this, they haven't played this. That's really, really helpful.
Yeah. There are ways to do this. I like just asking myself the question of what am I playing around, and then answering, because I like building up the skill of being able to identify that in the moment without the outside source. But there's nothing wrong with using an outside source, and also definitely using any tools the Deck Track can give you to help improve can be really supportive. Can really help you get the idea of what makes sense quickly. Also, like, don't be afraid to write down your bad habits. Play slower, probably. Most people listening to this, if you do not rope out routinely, Edelweiss, then...
Hey.
What? You can tell me it's not true? Is that what you're going to do?
No, it's fun.
Just, if you don't identify with Edelweiss and roping out frequently and having APM concerns, most of the time people play too fast and have an impulsive desire to come up with a play and then immediately play it. You should have 2 plays for every turn. You should spend some time convincing yourself that one of them is better than the other. But at the very least, just write down, take 10 seconds, count to 10. Something like that.
Or even just ask yourself, is there any reason why I shouldn't do this? Right? Like what could get in the way? Also, by the way, the control version of what am I playing around this turn is, how do I die here? Because that's usually that's the other thing that, is kind of the first level control player question, is just like, how do I die here? And, do I need to do anything about this? But yeah, just like thinking about like, okay, well, this is my best play. What would put me off of this? Why would I not want to do this? What am I doing with the rest of my mana? Right? Like if you're playing a card, just simple things like if you're like tapping last, or like if you're playing a card and you don't know what you're doing with the rest of your mana, and this comes up in coaching sessions sometimes. So it's like, well, let me play this card. Like, well, yeah, we're gonna do that, but what are we doing with the rest of our turn? Because we should figure that out before we play that, because that's when you start getting into sequencing, and you might and drawing first, and ordering the random effects correctly and stuff like that. Those kinds of things, they make a difference sometimes, not all the time, but if you do them enough correctly, just those things will give you an edge. And I'm bad at it too. Like there's at least 2 times a stream, usually towards the end, when I will make a boneheaded play because I'm not thinking these things through, and then I'll beat myself up for 15 seconds. But so it happens to the best of us, but at least if you even just like recognizing that you didn't do that afterwards is a step in the right direction. So, kind of be compassionate with yourself there, and like just recognizing that you didn't do the thing that you should be doing is also better than just blissfully going around the world not knowing that you're supposed to be doing that.
So, to wrap this up, to give you some clear points so that you can take with you on improving at improving. This is an evergreen topic that is a large-scale, complicated discussion, but we can distill down the basic idea into about 5 bullet points. 1, prepare yourself for consistent and sustained focus and accompanying time investment if improving is something that matters to you. 2, be emotionally aware. Consider emotional skills part of your skill set that you need to improve, and control and account for your own biases. 3, actively engage with support mechanisms, swallow your pride, share your replays, learn from other sources to avoid duplicating effort. But still play Hearthstone, a lot of it, more than you spend time researching. 4, make sure you have resting states where you are not turning the game into a lesson plan or a job that sucks the fun out of it. And 5, self-document, create your own structure, make sure that you retain the lessons that you've learned and that you are able to verbalize what you're doing in the past and in the future. That's the broad strokes here. These 5 points are the broad strokes of things that you can use to improve at improving. Are there many more details that can be talked about for hours, days, weeks, months, years? Yes, of course. That's what the Coincasy Discord is for. But, for now, this will just give you some contained information that you can take with you on your journey when you recognize that you want to commit to something larger that you want to reach for, and how to go get it. Tonberry is saying in chat, this seems like great advice for just navigating life in general. Thank you, Tonberry. I agree. I'm not just the president. I'm also a member of the... This isn't really a club.
You liked it so much you brought the podcast.
There you go. Something like that. Anyways, we have many folks that we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at coincasy.com. You can find our contact info, show notes, and Patreon information. Monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coincasy if you like. Thank you so much to everyone that does that. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coincasy.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coincasy.com. right into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede, as well as like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/coinconcede. If you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Doshi K, Kresh, Cap, Beef Squash, David P, Faded Block, Walu, Jeremy T, Bottle Caps, Lucky, and Ponies. Coin Concedes. Who we got? Edelweiss. Edelweiss, this is... Okay, you go first.
My coin concede is to modern medicine because it is the only thing that has kept me from feeling even more miserable these past couple weeks. I've been taking all kinds of like NyQuil, Dayquil, and like throat lozenges, and my inhaler is just so many things. And yeah, I would have much more trouble sleeping and breathing and all those things without that.
Yes. Though I will say, I got the bivalent vaccine this past week.
Yeah, I need that.
I'm getting mine tomorrow.
While I am glad it exists, while I feel protected, the day after I got it, I'm glad I took the day off work.
That's why I'm
It
doing it on a
was-
Friday.
Yeah.
I expect it to knock me squarely on my behind.
Yeah, it's a lot. So modern medicine, thank you, but also that was tough.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, I'm going to coin concede to. First of all, I don't remember if I coin conceded to Matt at Arms last week while he was on the show, so I'm doing it now, and I'm pretty sure I did then. Also, coin concede to the entire Squelch team. I don't remember why I did this, but I did buy them all bolo ties. Amazon had a deal. I spent more time than I should have spent. They have letter monogrammed, like 26 different, one for each letter of the alphabet, monogram bolo ties. First of all, they're not all the same price. There are some price arbitrage where you can get some letters for very cheap and some are weirdly expensive. F was the most expensive letter because of all the respect they had to pay. Pay the respect tax. But yeah, their episode was only top hats and bolo ties. I haven't listened to it yet, but I bet it's hilarious. I still don't remember why I bought them bolo ties, but I did, and I'm glad I did, and I do it
That's
again.
what's important.
Yes. So yes, go listen to Squelch. And also, my co-host Josh over on The Angry Chicken. We missed our episode this week because she has the Rona. So, Josh, feel better. Hope you're all right. Rest up. She has not been able to catch a break for
Yeah.
a while.
It's just been one thing after another for her for months. I feel bad
Like-
for her.
Like three
Yeah.
things after another three things. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been pretty dense. So yeah, Josh, feel better. See you next week. It'll be cool. Steve, coin concedes.
I'm gonna coin concede to Tito Santana. He's starting up a couple of new media ventures, and it's always good to get more people in the space. And the interview series that he's doing with Just a Guy, who's Cora and Sage's father, who's also hangs out in our Discord. He shared with me the trailer for that he posted before he posted it on Twitter. It's really good. It's pretty interesting seeing what they're going to do. So that's and he's always a positive positive person in a bunch of different streams that I frequent, including my own. So just want to say coin concede to him. Also to the Overwatch 2 devs, because speaking of weeks, I look at everything, especially the things that they've posted about what they've run into in this launch, and just as a developer, I'm terrified for them. Just reading some of the things that they've been dealing with, even absent the DDoS attacks. So it sounds like they're starting to right the ship, and I've seen a bunch of comments about Smalley dev company or whatever, but what they're doing is basically they're changing the engine of a plane in midair, and it's amazing it's even going as well as it is. But it's definitely not a fun week for them over there. So hopefully things are starting to stabilize for them, and they'll have get a chance to rest soon.
And
I really
regarding
hope so. Go
regarding
ahead.
Tito Santana as well, I was over on the Bread and Butter podcast that he's doing with uh, Doc McButt. So they had me on to talk about deck building and sort of my approach to that. It's episode 4. So if you're interested in that, check it out.
And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Coin Concede. So, until next week, keep calm and improve at improving. And if you see us on ladder, Coin Concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Outro. Okay. Stopping recording.
Yeah, there's not much to talk about this week.
There wasn't. We made a bunch of stuff up. It was all
I know.
guessing at nerfs and then making up a topic. We figured it out.
We
But it
got
was
there.
just news coverage. There was nothing.
You know, you're still live, right?
Yep. Okay.
Is this 364?
It is.
It is.
It's always weird when I miss an episode.
I edited.
It's weird for us
both-
too.
Yeah. I edited both Vicious Syndicate and Coin Concede on Friday. Like I ended up.
Appreciate
I
you.
was. Yeah. I had to do both of them in time for Saturday because I was away last week and I'm away this week. And I have to move a couch from Massachusetts, and I'm not looking forward to it.
That doesn't sound fun.
I mean, I'm
Why
looking
do you
forward to
do
having
that?
a new couch, but I don't want to deal with driving it a bunch of hours and also getting rid of my current couch and swapping out this one because we don't really have any place to put a couch while we wait for the other couch because I live in 1,000 square feet. So it's going to end up being good, but the process is going to be annoying. And I went to the dentist this morning, and that just makes me kind of just mad at everything. But then I won my THL match. It's been a real roller coaster of a day.
Oh, that reminds me I need to schedule a dentist appointment. I'm sure my teeth are
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah, they canceled mine for reasons, and then I haven't called them to schedule another one because ADHD. So yeah.
I hadn't seen them in a year, and the dentist's like, all considered, your teeth are actually fine. It's like, oh, that's kind of nice. And then he like messed with my mouth for an hour, and it hurts. It still aches. And I understand that it means it's cleaner, but I didn't like it then, and I don't like it now. However, I knew I forgot something. I have to share this screenshot.
I had a root canal in like 1st or 2nd grade, so
Ugh.
First or second grade on a baby tooth?
yeah.
Wow. I mean, I've had plenty since then because, ADHD and taking care of your teeth is not something that not two taste that taste great together.
Ah, see, this is where I have the advantage because I compulsively floss. Like,
Oh, okay.
and not like...
I mean, I do now, but, it took me a while
I should
to get
reframe that. Not compulsively floss. I can't stand having stuff stuck in my teeth, so I'm just constantly shoving shit between my teeth and it works
Yeah,
out.
no, I am the same way because the sensory thing, but also like it took me a while to understand the importance of it. Put it that way.
So here's a screenshot from my THL match today.
That's a glug.
Glug!
How?
It was frozen for a lot of turns. A lot.
Oh my
Many. There was a Sivera and Alibi Blizzard Flurry. But we did end up getting there.
Wow.
How do you have 2 Kel'Thuzods in hand?
Because Hearthstone is a silly place. It's because I hit on my discovered Murloc Holmes, obviously. I Theotard the first one, and then I Murloc Holmes another. In case you were wondering, no, I had not summoned any skeletons that game, because I was a shaman. And shamans don't summon skeletons.
I mean, you know, you could just like play that card in your deck, and you could do that all the time. You know, it's a perfectly cromulent card, Murloc Holmes.
So I discovered the Murloc Holmes. It wasn't in my deck naturally, because some people say that
I
that
know
card should be in the deck
because
naturally.
you know, but you know, that's how you work your way up to it.
I should have honestly whiffed the third guess on purpose, because the card that I burned was way more important than anything that I actually got from them. I ended that game with both Kel'Thuzads, and like you said, that was a screenshot of the end of the game. I had 2 Kel'Thuzads and a Flurry, and it didn't matter because I attacked for 68 with 1 minion. Yeah. All right. I am going to bring the stream down. Everyone, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you. We will see you next week.
Bye, friends.
Bye.